on some kind of a strange kick. I know sometimes I get through like one verse, and that's the whole sermon. Be it the Father's will, we're going to do another chapter today. 3 chapters in 3 Shabbats. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, me too.
We are in Revelation chapter 6. We almost went on a tangent that would have made this a 2-parter, but I think we can do it all today. Revelation chapter 6. Verse 1. And when I saw the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard as it were the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, "Come and see." Now remember, let's go back, chapter 5, verse 1. And I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within, and it's actually a scroll, within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming in a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof?" And no man in heaven nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon. And I wept much because no man was found worthy. And then you will remember that the angel said, hey, don't worry about it. There is one worthy. The Lion of Judah, the Lamb, is worthy to open the seal. So you don't need to be weeping and crying. And we talked about how the seals were actually, the scroll is rolled up and there's 7 pieces of string tied in a knot with a wax seal on each one of them. And so it's not like you open a seal and read a little bit and open a seal and read a little bit. The whole thing is, the whole book, the whole scroll is closed with 7 seals. And to remember what the scroll represents, what the scroll is going to reveal, and why he's weeping. The scroll represents the future history that Yah wants to have come forward. Okay, and so no one is able to open it, and so he was weeping because now Yah's will is, in his mind, is not going to happen because no one can open the scroll of Yah's will and Yah's future history, if you will, whatever you call that, whatever the word is for future history. And so now we get to, in chapter 6, one of the seals is getting ready to be opened. And actually we're going to open 6 of them today. But one of the seals is going to be open. Now you have to understand, these seals are open and things are going to happen. All of that has to happen before this scroll can be unrolled and what Yah wants to happen in the end comes, which we'll get to as we go into Revelation. And so the Lamb, Yeshua, is the only one worthy to open it. Verse 2, and I saw, behold. Now what we're getting ready to get into here, you all have heard of this. It's used, it's in common vernacular, even though people don't know exactly what they're talking about. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Matter of fact, there was a football front line called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse one time, and I was going to look that up so I'd sound intelligent, but I don't follow sports. Do you know who it was? Was it like Pittsburgh or something?
It was like Packers. It was like way back.
It was back like when I was in high school, I think. But they called themselves the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And shalom, and come on in, make yourself at home. And so the 4 horsemen, this whole thing that we're going to read about today is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So back to verse 2, Sister Kate, there you go. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him, this is when the seal's broken, that's what he sees. And he that sat upon him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering, and to conquer. So the white horse is the first of the 4 horses that we're going to read about, and the horseman on the horse. And it says he was given a crown and a bow, and he goes forth conquering and to conquer. Who thinks they know who this is? Who's on this horse? Man, there's this thing in mainline Christianity, not all of it certainly, but a big chunk, shalom, it's nice to see you again. A big chunk of mainline Christianity says this is Jesus Christ. And that is blasphemous, actually, because this is the Antichrist, right? This is the Antichrist that is going forth conquering and to conquer. And he's given a bow, and he has a crown. And if you look at the way it's written, behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. This is the Antichrist is kind of being released upon the earth at this point. He's being allowed by the Father to do what he's going to do, and we'll get into that a little bit more as we go. This Antichrist being, creature, person, if it turns out being that, is in the spirit of Nimrod. And we can read about Nimrod where it says he was a hunter, a mighty hunter. He was a hunter of men in a bad way. You know, Yeshua said, "Come with me and I'll make you catchers of men." That was used in a good form, but Nimrod was a bad guy. He was a bad person, and this is the same spirit here, but it's going to be worse, as you're about to find out. It's really good to see you guys again. Bless you. You bless me by letting me see you. So shalom. So this is we're in Revelation chapter 6. We're just on finishing up verse 2. And the white horseman is the Antichrist that will be released upon the earth as it is. All right. Verse 3. And when he had opened, remember he is Yeshua, when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast. And these are the four like cherubims that are around the throne, right there on the outside of the throne. You kind of get the picture. There's one in each cardinal direction, and the throne is in the middle. And so they're at the closest point, if you will. And they're the same cherubims like that one was put in the front of the Garden of Eden to protect it so no one could come and go. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. Right? And so this sword is to take peace from the earth, and the people are going to kill each other. Now, it says, power was given unto him. The power is given unto him by Yah to go kill all these people. Well, what kind of a God would kill all those people? He's bringing judgment. That's what's coming here. These seals right here are judgment coming upon the earth. It's like, that's it, had it. And so this guy goes forward. It's war, the red horse of war. And it doesn't say that he brings war. If you look at the wording here, it says, "There went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that thereon to take peace." See, he didn't bring war, he took peace. He took shalom from the world. And when Yah's shalom, Yah's peace, the peace that exceeds all understanding, is removed from the earth, there's a vacuum. And into that vacuum rushes all this evil and violence and anti-love, if you will. And that's why people start killing each other. And I submit we can see that kind of thing starting to happen today. Now, there's always been bad people. From Cain, right? There's been bad people. And there's always been bad parts of town. But it's getting worse. Things are ramping up. And that's not this guy yet. I'm just saying, you can start getting a feel for it. There's going to be violent, evil people out there doing violent, evil things. And war will be coming on. So he removes the shalom. There's a vacuum. And it has to be filled. Verse 5, and when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld. Now, this is all what you get. You get the beast say, "Come and see," and then he sees something. Except this time. I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." Now this one's interesting because I heard a voice from in the midst of the four beasts. Who's in the midst of the four beasts? Yeshua, Elohim is there. So he's speaking forth. This is the only time that this happens. So it's in addition to what he sees. And this black horse is famine. Famine is coming upon the land. And you can tell that because the scales that the rider is holding represents we're having to measure out a minuscule amount of food, and that demonstrates scarcity. And so when there's scarcity of food, there is famine, and famine is coming. And if you think about it, we have the first seal is the Antichrist. The Antichrist brings war, right? That's the second seal. The red horse takes peace from the earth. And then war typically brings famine because you're removing the farmers out of the fields and whatever, fields and pastures to go fight. And the armies come through and they kill the fields and they kill the animals. And so people are hungry and there's famine in the land. And then when it says, and different people have it worded different ways. In mine, the King James, it says a measure of wheat for a penny. I think in some it says a denarius, right? Well, a denarius is a day's wage. And does somebody have something different than measure?
Day's wage.
A day's wage for it? No, it's got to say how much wheat for a day's wage.
Oh, 6 pounds of barley.
So here's the deal. They have, says what?
Quart.
A quart. It was a quart. And I'm glad you said that because that's exactly where we're going. A quart of wheat supposedly makes enough bread for one man for one day, right? And so this, you can either get, and wheat is better than barley for making bread. And so for a day's work, you can get, Sam, you're going out to work, you get enough money to feed yourself that day. That's it, nothing else. And now if you have a wife and kids, you got nothing to feed them. I guess you're going to accept the barley instead, which is a lower quality bread that you're going to get to feed your people. But the bottom line is no one's getting ahead and there's famine in the land and this is bad. Now here's an interesting thing that I thought about. We, until recently, had the idea that a bucket of wheat, corn, rice, or beans, because I did the math on it, was a month's worth of food for one person, right? And then we recently doubled that. So now we went from 12 buckets a year per person to 25 buckets a year per person. But let's do the math on that. A bucket holds 5 gallons. There's how many quarts in a gallon? 4. That's 20 quarts in a bucket. And I said a bucket lasted a month, and then we backed off of that and said not quite a month. 20 days worth of food in a bucket. There's 20 quarts of wheat. So a day's wage, you get one. I just thought, we're figuring kind of correctly there, and it has been that way historically. Wow. So about 20 days per bucket, and that's when you're doing normal work, not working hard, like we looked at. But the bottom line is famine is coming. And then we get this part right here, because see, the voice speaks from the throne. And it says, let me find it exactly, a measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley, a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Y'all seen that before? See thou hurt not the oil and the wine? Have you thought about what that means? Most of the church, if you will, not all, but most of the church thinks, and they could be right, that this means the poor working class people who work for their food, they're gonna be struggling. But wine and oil, which is olive oil, right? We're not talking petroleum. We're talking olive oil and wine. There's going to be a lot of that. The rich people aren't really going to worry about this too much. The super wealthy, it's like, the oil and the wine's flowing. And if it costs X amount of dollars to buy X amount of wheat, which, by the way, they did the math on that, biblical historians, and that's 12 times the cost. So it's basically bread has gone from whatever it is today, I don't know, I don't buy it, Sister Kate does, to 12 times as much. So it's costing 12 times as much to eat, which is kind of interesting too, because then you're thinking, okay, 1/12 of their pay went to food, and if I'd have thought of this, I'd have asked Kate, how much money do we spend a month to eat? And all that's interesting. But the one way of looking at this is, it's going to affect the average person, but the super rich, the elites, who we're going to read about in a minute, they're not going to worry so much. That's one way of looking at it. Has anybody heard another way of looking at that? See that you hurt not the oil and the wine, besides Sister Kate? Another way I have heard before, and so I'm not the only one who thinks this, and they could both be true, is that the oil and the wine are Yah's elect, the saints. And that's a metaphor for them. And so it's like, the world is going to be starving, but don't hurt my elect. And I got to thinking about that and just trying to make sense of it myself. And it's like, hey, we hear what he's saying, we see what's going on, we read this word, and just as we just spoke about, we store up food. We're at the point now where we're storing up food for other people, not just ourselves, so that the elect, those who come out of her, my people, which we're going to read about later, but not today, have something to eat. And so maybe the elect who listen to the voice of Yah aren't going to have this problem, the oil and the wine. I don't know. I'm not claiming to know that. I'm just saying those are two different ways of looking at that right there. The bottom line and the thing we can take away from this for sure is that there is going to be famine in the land. There's going to be war in the land. There's going to be famine in the land when this seal is released. All right, verse 7. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over a fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. Who has a different word for pale?
Green.
Green. That is a better word. What?
Chartreuse.
No, that's not a better word. I've seen green, I've seen livid, so maybe that's where chartreuse comes from. This horse was a weird color, and it looked bad. I think it looked like gangrene, or maybe chartreuse is kind of like an infected wound or something like that. It looks like death. It's this boil pestilence thing riding around that he perceives. It's not pale, although, that has been used. Pale rider, pale horse. In the movie Tombstone. Westerns like it a lot. And when it says hell followed with him, it's the grave, right? So Gehenna. And so he's riding along, and it's all this death and destruction caused by war, caused by famine. It says this. Oh, I was in verse 4. That's not right. Hold on, let me find this. Behold, a pale horse, his name was Death, hell followed after him. Power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword, so that's war. With hunger, that's famine, we just read about it. With death, and with beasts of the earth. That's wild beasts. That's like lions and tigers and bears, oh my. Coyotes and wild hogs and feral dogs, oh my. That's going to happen. You're going to see more of that. Now, I'm thinking logically here, why is that? Because as war and famine start depopulating the landscape in the world, these animals are going to commonly, dogs and stuff, they form packs and they'll be dangerous. And there'll be more bears running around because there'll be less people shooting at them. That kind of thing. So, yeah, that's going to happen. Now it says 25%, a fourth of the people are going to die with this guy. People have already died before, and with this seal, if you will, the pale horse, 25% of the people die. So I looked it up. There is 7.5 billion people in the world. Okay, I thought it was 6 something. It's now 7.5. That's like 2 billion people are going to die from this fourth seal, the pale horse. That's a lot of people. These are terrible times. This famine, this disease, this death by war, all these different reasons. These are bad times that are coming. They haven't happened yet. At no time on earth has 25% of the earth been destroyed like that. Just hasn't happened. Not even in the Spanish flu. That wasn't even close. Let's turn to Matthew 24. Remember I gave you that for homework? We're going to keep going back to Matthew 24. Matthew 24, verse 21. Oh, I bet you I put a ribbon there. I did. Matthew 24, verse 21. Yeshua speaking. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor shall ever be. This is what he's talking about. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The world has never seen anything like this before. They're never going to see it again after this is over. Praise the Father. But that's what he's talking about there, this great tribulation. All right, back to Revelation. So that's the first 4 seals. Verse 9. And when he had opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Elohim and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, Now, I have Lord in the King James. Does somebody have Master Yahweh or something like that?
Master.
How long, O Master, holy and true, set apart and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season until their fellow servants also and their brethren should be killed as they were, should be fulfilled. It's the martyrs. And the martyrs are crying out to Yah for vengeance. Vengeance is mine, saith Yahweh. It's his vengeance. We're not supposed to take vengeance on ourselves, but clearly it's okay to pray for him to do so. Because that's what they're doing. How long is this? And where are they crying from? Under the altar. Turn to Leviticus chapter 4. Leviticus chapter 4. I think we're going to verse 7. They're crying from under the altar. Yes, and the priest shall put some of the blood upon the horns of the altar of sweet incense before Yahweh, which is in the tabernacle of the congregation, and he shall pour all the blood of the bullock at the bottom of the altar of the burnt offering, which is at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And so the priest, in this case for the sin offering, is pouring the blood around the altar. It's under the altar. And then we go back here and we have these martyrs for Yah, martyrs for Yeshua, who have died, and they're given this special place. They're right there under the altar. That's about as close to he who sits on the throne as you can get. They're crying out for vengeance. And what is their answer? What answer are they given by Yah?
Wait a little while.
Wait a little while. Until what? Until those who have not yet become martyrs have a chance to become martyrs. You see, there's martyrs coming, and these people who are martyrs are followers of Yeshua. There's this thing going on out there in people's minds where they're like, no, I follow Yeshua, nothing's going to happen to me. There's people in South Sudan, there's people in China right now who are following Yeshua who are getting martyred. They're going under this altar because they're dying for him when they could revoke him, rebuke him, deny him, and they know if they don't, they're going to die. They stick with him. And so they're given a very special place of honor. They're right there by the throne. They're right there. The sad thing, the good thing, how do you look at that? Where do you value your life? Is that there's going to be more during this time. I tell people, the people who say they're not leaving the cities, say, okay, and I'm a believer. It's just the Father isn't calling me to move out of these cities, to come out of her, my people. I said, okay, y'all need martyrs still. Maybe you'll be one. I like a different part of Revelation for me and us. We won't get there today. All right. White robes were given to them. That shows their righteousness. And they tell them, hey, you guys got to wait a little bit. There's still more to come, and then it'll be fulfilled. Verse 12. And I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake. Now, here's the thing. We're getting ready to open it. Well, we just did open the 6th seal. As if the 5 before were not hard enough. We're not bad enough. We're not awful enough. Because those have happened. Now we get to the 6th seal. So, 1/4 of the world has died of all these terrible things. There's been disease and starvation and war. The Antichrist is running around. And I beheld when he opened the seal, lo, there was a great earthquake. And the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. He's using, I'm not an English major, allegory, metaphor, something. He's using words that he can to express what he's seeing in this vision. The moon is not literally blood, right? It doesn't look like it's dripping. I submit it's a dark red color, right? And the day becomes as dark as sackcloth. The day becomes like night. It's really dark. That's because there's earthquakes going on. There's volcanoes going off. The whole world is changing. It's probably this polar shift, whatever, Nibiru. I don't know. But the whole thing is the world is going to rock and roll and shake, and mountains are moving out of their places, and stuff is being thrown up in the air, which is going to make it dark during the day, and it makes the moon look red, like blood. It'll be a dark red moon that people see. But wait, there's more. So every mountain and island is moved out of their places. The whole world shakes and tumbles. 15. And the kings of the earth, that means the rulers, what many people today call the elite. The kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men and the chief captains and the mighty men. And also every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For this great day his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? These people are experiencing this, and isn't it interesting that it says they're in the ground and under the rocks? What are the elites doing right now? What are they building? They're building these huge, I've been in an underground city before that had a lake and a boat on it. The semi-trucks were driving into it and out of it. There are underground, and that's all I got to see for the most part. But I know there are big underground structures all over this country. How many people here have an underground structure underneath their house? I don't. Sister Kate and I were watching a video the other day on civil defense in Sweden. And they built these beautiful, under the whole street bunkers to like the whole city can go under. They're gorgeous. And I'm like, man, I'd like to have something like that for the Shofarians. You can't build that. You don't have enough money. We don't all together make enough money in all our lives to build something big enough to house us like that. I'm talking these high streets. But the rich and the elite do. And they're doing it right now all over the world. It's a constant headline that we're seeing. I just saw a headline on Drudge that said doomsday prepping is becoming mainstream. It used to be weird, but people know. And the rich people, the elites, the people in power see more than we do about things, and they're worried. And so right now at this stage, they're thinking, yeah, baby, I've got my $3.2 million shelter. I've got the finest wines in my wine cellar of it, my oil and my wine and my caviar, and I got, all the best things, and they think they're set. But when they see the wrath of Yah descending upon the earth, and they are just going to tremble in fear. And it says they're praying for the rocks and the mountains to fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. That's compared to when it says every knee shall bow. And I say people like us, when our knees bow, we're going to be going, yes, come, Master Yeshua, yes. But a whole lot of people are going to be bowing, going down on their knees and doing the Homer Simpson, because they know he's coming. And they've been playing the odds this whole time saying he doesn't matter, or he's not coming, or he's not real. And at this point, they think they're safe in their little hidey holes that they spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on, and they're going to realize, oh, crap. Yep. And it's too late. And that's what they're thinking. Let's look at Zephaniah. I know, you're going to have to look it up. It's one of the minor prophets. Zephaniah. Chapter 1, verse 14 of Zephaniah. The great day of Yahweh is near. It is near, and it hastens greatly. It's coming quicker. Even the voice of the day of Yahweh. The mighty man shall cry there bitterly. Does it start sounding familiar? The day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness. Sounds familiar again. And gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, a day of the shofar, an alarm against the fenced cities and against the high towers. And it goes on and on and on. It's the same imagery that's going on there. There is a day coming that is going to rock people's world, literally and figuratively. And those of us who are right with him, we're golden. It's like I love to tell people, I've read to the end of this book and I know how it turns out. We win. But that doesn't stop what's coming from coming. Now, let's look back at verse 13. It says, and the stars of heaven, of Revelation chapter 6, the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs. Let's compare that. Let's go to Daniel chapter 8. Daniel 8, 9, 10. Daniel chapter 8, verse 9. Daniel chapter 8, verse 9. And one of them came forth a little horn, which grew exceedingly great towards the south and towards the east and towards the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the host of heaven and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. That's the stars that are coming down. Let's look at one more. Let's look at Joel chapter 2. Just a little bit further on in the word. Joel chapter 2. By the way, Daniel and Joel are fascinating reading if you don't want to sleep at night. Joel chapter 2, verse 10. And the earth shall quake before them, the heavens shall tremble, the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. And Yahweh shall utter his voice before his army, for his camp is very great, for he is strong that executes his word. For the day of Yahweh is great and very terrible, and who can abide it? I submit that these stars that fall down from heaven, that are cast down from heaven, are the fallen angels, the third of the angels who joined up with Satan. And they're coming back from wherever they're being held right now, right at the end, and it's just going to get worse. It's just like, man, we were starving, then there's war, then we were starving, then there's this disease, and wild animals are attacking us. And now this is happening. The earth is shaking. All this stuff's happening. And oh, great. What now? And there's movies on this. See, that's the whole thing. Hollywood has this deal or whatever they're in, supposedly, that they've got to tell you ahead of time what's going to happen, what they're going to do. It's like their code of conduct or whatever. And they show these evil demons coming out. It's just like the Terminator. Something like that's going to happen, and they're going to be running around. But it's okay. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. All right, finishing up, verse 17. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? See, all these people, it ended with, all these people are hiding in their tunnels, in their caves, in their super shelters, and it's like they're saying, oh, just fall on me, rocks. And the great day of Yah, his wrath is here. Who shall be able to stand? You know who shall be able to stand? We will. We shall be able to stand. Last verse, turn to Romans chapter 5. There's more, but I picked this one. Romans chapter 5, verse 1. Therefore, being justified by faith, we have peace with Elohim through our Master, Yeshua HaMashiach, by whom also we have access by faith unto this grace wherein we stand, and rejoice in the hope and the glory of Elohim. See, the world is going to go through terrible things, but we have to remember we're on the right side. We win. We can stand in that time because we know we're living the way he wants us to live. We know the grace of Yeshua, his atoning blood, has covered our sins, and we're going to be okay. Doesn't mean the world's not going to be going crazy around us, but we're going to be okay. Who can stand? We can stand. Let's pray. Can you melt?
That's what it feels like.
It can feel like your body's melting.
I wish it would show a difference.
Sweating's actually good for us.
Oh, yeah.
Gets rid of impurity.
Who can stand?
We can stand.
You mean we're not going to be raptured?
No, sir, we are not going to be raptured. Well, depends how you define rapture. There is a point coming right at the very end of all this, before the day of wrath, which is what the Day of Atonement is pointing towards, where we are taken up. But that's in like the last couple days of this whole tribulation thing. We'll get to that. But for all this stuff that we read about, no, we'll be here unless we. Right. There will be a second Exodus, but that will be during this tribulation time frame. It will be going on, and just like the Israelites, because the first Exodus is the type for the second Exodus. People think, oh, it's all milk and honey and sweetness and light, and we're all worshiping Yah together in the desert. It's just like Sukkot. We get to sit around and tell stories and sing songs. Consider the first Exodus. See, nobody wants to do that when they say there's going to be a second Exodus. It's just going to be like the first. They were being chased first by the Egyptians, by the chariots. Then they were in the desert. They're starving to death, they think. They're dying of thirst, they think. But we're better than that, right? Because we won't complain. Right. They had Moses talking to Yahweh right over there, and they didn't get it. And so there's that. And then they've got to fight. Everywhere they go, they're fighting. They go into the promised land. How many people made it into the promised land that started? 2. Joshua and Caleb, they make it into the promised land. Very few. The straight and narrow. Yeah. The second Exodus isn't going to be fun.
Driving my Escalade.
Right, we're going to rob the Egyptians. We're going to borrow from the Egyptians on taking an Escalade.
And their helicopters.
Right.
That's going to happen.
We're just going to sit around at night and sing Kumbaya.
Right.
On the do not harm the oil and wine, are we referenced, are the elect referenced anywhere else as oil or wine?
No. No. And that's a very good question, which is why I said, I think. I'm not preaching this.
Inference at this point.
I think that's what it is. Because oil is used throughout, and it really, you can draw amazing parallels between oil and the Holy Spirit, the Ruach. Wine, many parallels with wine and the blood of Yeshua that he shed for us.
That's what I was thinking about. Okay.
But clearly, no one ever, the Father never intended for the Holy Spirit to be hurt anywhere, or the blood of Yeshua to be hurt anywhere. And that's why I think, okay, we have the Holy Spirit. We have been covered by the blood of Yeshua. Boom, boom. I'm just thinking maybe that's the metaphor that's going on there.
That ties it together in my mind.
Plus, we're watching.
And also, if you read about it, and we will read about it, Revelation 12 for sure, when the woman, which represents the church in the end times, flees to the wilderness, she flees to the wilderness to be in a position of relative safety. That doesn't mean, again, they're all singing Kumbaya. They're being pursued by the Antichrist. Being pursued is never fun, but they are being pursued. But they're alive. So.
That's it. That chair will not leave his sight from now on. That's it.
Right. Well, it's like right after you got it, right? Then it
Really had it like 2 weeks.
then it was held hostage.
Hostage. Months on, wasn't it? No, we used to meet at another place.
Let's pray for the food so people can eat when they want. Heavenly Father, thank you for the food. We ask your blessings upon it, upon the fellowship as we partake, and upon the hands that made it. In Yeshua's name, amen.
Amen.
Should have done that first.
On that very night, they decided they were done with us, so maybe we should.
Guys, we have shared. Well, I've killed my bucket. There's chairs inside, just grab one. I'm sitting over here because I'm tired of standing in the sun, man.
Are you a married couple now, or did the Filipino wife thing not work out?
Even though we're still friends, I mean, we still talk, and she's more mature in the faith and everything like that, and it's just like, I know your voice, she said no, but now she's...
Are you okay? I saw you take like what I'm about to do.
I was sitting crooked on my bucket, and the bucket wasn't even, and the bucket
How possibly here on Shofar Mountain could your bucket not be even? I find that very hard to believe.
I think it was honestly more just the way I was sitting on it.
It is hard to find more
Doesn't
than
help that
6
the bucket's
inches of
4
weather
years old.
ground.
I'm gonna go
Was used as a
I guess I
planting
should stop this, huh?
at one point in its life
Yeah.
too.